Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. The dog.
What do you want me to do? Leave the meeting?
Sir Alan, if you're addressing us, your microphone is muted.
The mic is mute, Mr. Allen.
All right, Sir Alan, I just sent you an invitation to unmute. So you can click on that and you will be able to go ahead.
We need a password for this, Mr. Mark.
No, once you click on the link, it takes you
Hello?
right into the meeting. No password is needed. Once someone clicks on the link, they will come right into the meeting.
Are you operating, administering it? Go ahead and administer the program, please.
All right, so you are co-host.
Yes, you go host it. Go ahead, just open the discussion.
All right, a presentation was being made earlier by the SDC, I believe, the representative from the SDC. I'm not certain if that person has rejoined.
Afternoon, Mr. Allen.
All right, is that the representative from the SDC that was doing the presentation earlier?
Yes.
All right, we have 10 persons on the, well, 11 persons online. And Mr. Allen is here. He has asked me to moderate for a moment. So at your leisure, you may continue the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to continue with the participatory framework. This highlights the relationship between various levels of governance structures.
I'm sorry, one moment, please, Alicia. You seem to have two devices that are too close to each other, and so there's a reverb. So if you could disconnect the audio for the device that you're not using, that would prevent the reverb.
Okay, you're hearing me better now?
Much better. Much better. Much better. Thank you. Much better.
Okay, as I was saying, we are continuing the presentation with the participatory governance framework, and this highlights the relationship between the various levels of governance structures that creates opportunity for increased citizenry participation in developmental matters. This framework consists of 4 tiers. We have what is called the community-based organizations, that is the Citizens Association, the youth clubs, the farmers group, returning residents group. Those are called the bottom tier, which is the first tier. The second tier of these groups is the Community Development Committee. Then we have what is called the Development Area Committee, and the 4th level is the PDC, which is the Parish Development Committee. The SDC is responsible for establishing and building the capacity of these civil society. SDC also facilitates the relationship in the actors in the participatory governance framework, such as the private sector, the state agency, and the elected representative. And you'll have this coming out when we're doing especially what we call the social service fairs or the job fairs, where we ask private sector persons, maybe persons from the BPO, to come in, maybe the hotels, other places to come in and do interviews for the residents of the community. When we have the health and wellness fairs, we ask state agencies, maybe the MOH, the AIDS Support Association to come in and do testing for those. And of course, we also always include our elected reps. In establishing the CDC, the process, we refer to the process that seeks to formally bring individuals or groups together around a common cause or interest, usually in a particular space or geographic demarcation, which we call a district, a community, a development area, or even a parish.
Sorry, Ms. Spence, there seems to be a disturbance in your background.
We still have that. This is Ms. Malcolm. We still having that?
Yes, there seems to be an ad regarding Sagicor Bank in your background.
Sagicor Bank ad in our background.
Ad in our background?
We don't have anything, Mr. Mullins.
It's okay, go ahead.
It's
Go
okay?
ahead,
All right. This evening, we're here to really talk about the Community Development Committee. And this, a definition of the CDC, it's a Community Development Committee. This committee is composed of the level 1, which is called level 1 groups, which are called the CBOs, and key stakeholders in the community. It provides the foundation for supporting citizens' participation in higher level governance structures, such as a DAC, which is a Development Area Committee. Another definition is that it provides a foundation for supporting citizens' participation, and only one CDC can be in any community. The aims and goals of the CDC is to assess broad development issues specific to the community. It also to plan, implement, and monitor responses to these priorities. So when you identify the issues, you plan how you're going to fix it, you implement what you're going to use to fix it, and you monitor the responses for these. You also encourage a coordinated approach to development of the community. Also invite the active cooperation of all agencies or organizations within the community to be a part of this. The purpose of the CDC, it is the voice of the community. So when you have a CDC in the community, it should really speak loudly about the community. So you're going to have persons from all over the community. So whenever the CDC speaks, it speaks of the issues that affects the community. It provides a foundation for supporting all the issues that, that affects the community. All right, some attributes of what a good CDC should entail. It is an enabling environment. So it shouldn't be a space where persons can come and express what they're feeling, what the issues are in their space. This CDC should be a space where persons should feel comfortable to talk about what affects them in their little neck of the woods. The attributes also talk to flexibility. You should be flexible as a CDC. It's not just your way or the highway. Sorry about that. It should be flexible. You should hear what everybody says. You should have the grounds to help everybody because you're talking about one community. It should operate on an agreed principle, value and ethics. So we shouldn't be in a space where persons can't express what they feel and not being judged. So you should not be judgmental. You should be accountable and transparent. It should also be accessible to the community. So wherever the CDC is located, persons should have ease of getting there or getting to the persons who are acting as the voice of the community, where you can share all your problems or your values or any other thing. Your recommendation, and you should have a shared vision for the community. CDC should always also be aware of the laws and government policy as it relates to community and the ability to promote itself. Some challenges that might come up within a CDC is a conflict of ideas and interests. And as I said before, the CDC should be a place where you can always argue, trash out what you have to trash out, because you know wherever groups are, wherever persons come together, you're going to have difference of opinion, different ideas. Some person might not like what you have to say and all of that, but it should be a space where you can discuss and come out to an amicable solution for the betterment of the community. Another challenge is that the smaller groups lost in some space, the smaller groups may lose their identity. Like, say you have a youth club, and the youth club becomes a part of the CDC. Sometimes those who are in charge of the youth club are the persons who becomes
the president,
the vice president, or the executive of the CDC. And in such case, there are times when that youth club now just becomes the CDC and loses their identity as a youth club. So we have to be careful of that. And that is one of the challenges that we see coming out as are in the CDC and establishment. There's also difficulty in cooperation and communication, and this is where we should be able to communicate and cooperate for the betterment of our community. Another challenge that comes out is non-representativeness of the entire community. Sometimes it's just one little family or one little corner of the community that is entailed in the CDC, and we need to try and alleviate these kind of things and move away from that. We need to get representatives from different areas, the church, the school, the different corners of the community to be a part of the CDC. Some functions of the CDC: administrative and information management. The CDC needs to identify and discuss issues. They also need to collect and collate information on the community. They should receive and store copies of all existing documents on the community. Plan and host annual general meetings. The CDC should be able to mobilize resources. As a CDC, you should be able to engage the partners, other individuals and agencies. Example, to host health fair, job fair, community market, night outs, all those kind of things. So the CDC should be integral in these kind of activities in their community.
Matter of fact, let me say something. The CDC should be the one implementing these activities with the assistance from the SDC. So our role in the community should be should assist and to facilitate these things. We're not supposed to be the one who is implementing them.
Rightly so. The CDC also need to have fundraising activity, so they can put on the back to school or the Christmas treat and those things. They should also be able to collect dues. And the CDC should be able to advocate and represent the community. They should engage stakeholders to discuss and create action plans for these issues. They should represent the members' interests. So members here mean everybody in the community or community persons. It shouldn't be just a small body. When they talk or when they represent the community, it should be the need of the community. And they should get support of the residents and CEOs in the developing plans for the community. And in this, they should represent at the DAC level. Right now, the Greater Montego Bay space that this community is in does not have a DAC.
But we do have a PDC.
But we do have a PDC that you can go straight to the PDC, or we should have an active PDC where you should be able to be represented. The CDC also should be planning and implementing. To formulate, organize, implement, monitor and plan activities for the CDC. The SDC will help the community to develop what we call a community project plan. This plan entails things that are in the community, things that we want to be in the community, and how we are going to try and get these things. Who are our members, who we are going to ask to help to alleviate some of the issues that we have in the community and stuff like that. And they should also collaborate with the agencies, the councillors, the member of parliament, and private sector for planning these activities. Okay, the CDC also should develop some form of networking and coordination. They should be able to promote and coordinate approach to development of the community. They should link with resource persons or other groups and get their best practices in order for your group to emulate and develop. Integration of CBOs in addressing certain issues. All right, the structure of the CDC, as I said, the general composition or the ideal composition of a CDC, we should have all the level 1 groups, and that is such as sports and youth and culture group, faith-based organizations, the PTAs, businesses and community, returning residents association, service clubs, citizens and neighborhood watch, other community-based organizations. We have community members, ex-officio members, and the elected representative. Those are some of the groups that should comprise the
have a question, hand raised, Councillor Chu?
Yes, I needed to check with you if you wanted to take questions during your presentation, or you would prefer to have those questions, to field those questions after your presentation. You advise me.
All right, after, because we are on our last lap, so after is fine.
All right.
We'll take you first, Councillor Chu.
All right, additionally, Miss Spence, the voice goes in and out, so if you could keep close to the device, and we're hearing both of you simultaneously, so it tends to get a little distorted.
All right, I'm sorry about that.
All right, so you can conclude the presentation, and there are 2 questions, one in the chat, and Councillor Troop has one. Anyone else has any questions, you can either pose them in the chat or raise your hand, and I'll acknowledge your hand, and then we will take the questions accordingly. Conclude the presentation, please.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have like about 2 or 3, if we have so much slides left, just some information about the CDC and what some of the regulatory documents that the CDC should have. All right, the operation of the Community Development Committee, which is the CDC, are regulated by a constitution and by law. The SDC provides the draft constitution. So yes, the CDC should have a constitution, and that constitution is done by us at the SDC. The CDC is subjected to an annual standardized assessment done by the SDC, and you should be able to get a 70% score. If it's under that, you fail that assessment. So we'll have to do it. We'll have to see why you fail it, work with you to fix that, and then do the assessment the other year. Also, the CDC should be, or should have a reporting relationship. The CDC should share the summary of their issues, achievement, activities, anything that is taking place in the area at the DAC meeting. And as I said before, the Greater Montego Bay space does not have a DAC, so the sharing of these documents or information should be done at the PDC meeting. The CDC should also ensure that agreements made at the CDC meetings are channeled back to the various CBOs, because as I said before, the ideal composition of the CDC should have all the lower tier groups. So if you, as the CDC, go to the PDC meeting, whatever is discussed, whatever is agreed on, you'll take it back to the community so they too can send it out in their groups, so the whole community should be aware of what takes place at that meeting. And the CDC should identify at least 2 persons to represent at the DAC or the PDC. Okay, the CDC action plan. Each year, the SDC's officer will help to guide the CDC to develop an action plan that they would use to go through the year. So we don't really want them to just having meetings, because after a while it gets monotonous and persons start to lose interest. So we'll develop other activities for them to do just to keep a vibe going in the community. Okay. The last slide is that the CDC should have a future plan, must be completed, or must be the completion of the priority plan where none exist. So if you don't have a action plan, you do a priority plan, or vice versa. If you don't have a priority plan, you do an action plan. So the CDC will always have something to look forward to in their meetings and to do throughout the year in their space. That's it for me. And I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to us and having us here.
You take the question.
We'll take the questions now.
All right, thank you so much. On behalf of those who are on the platform, I want to express profound appreciation for your presentation, which was most informative and quite interesting. There are some questions that we're going to be fielding now. One of the first questions I want to pose coming out of the chat is, will the presentation be available for circulation among the members of this group?
Yes, it could be. I will put it together and send it to you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen or Mr. Mullins? Mr. Allen.
Yes,
so you
Mr.
can,
Allen.
Yes, so you can just make it to the group.
All right, all right. I'm going to release the microphone, members, so that you can pose your questions directly. Having been asked to moderate the meeting, I'm going to use a chairman's privilege to acknowledge Mr. Clinton Pickering, whose message I saw coming before Mr. Michael Troop's hand was raised. Sir Pickering, would you please go ahead and pose your question, or would you want them to take it from the chat? All right, I'll take his, okay, all right, he does say take from the chat. So the question from the chat to the presenters, the question now arises, what recommendations would the SDC have going forward for this body, which is in keeping with the guidelines and objectives that were outlined earlier?
We're talking about the Granville Foundation or the Granville CDC, just to be clear, so I can know what.
All right, Mr. Pickering, that's redirected to you.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir, true. 1 second, please.
Yeah,
Right, so it says, what do we do as a community? So,
may I address that issue, please? Speaking for the Granville Foundation, the Granville Peace, Justice and Resource Development Foundation. Can I speak, Mr. Mullins, Reverend Mullins?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Good. I'm happy that I'm here where I am now, and you're where you are, Mr. Mack, so that I can speak now as a member of the Granville Peace, Justice and Resource Development Foundation. We do not wish to usurp the authority of the CDC. The CDC is the umbrella organization that should, and the operative word here is should, be playing a coordinating role, a monitoring role, and a evaluation role. While the CDC, to which the Granville Peace and Justice, CBO, we are a CBO, a community-based organization with a limited mandate. And this is one of the weaknesses of the CDC. We do not have sufficient CBOs, the building block that would make the CDC a robust representative body that it ought to be. And this is the role of the SDC now in building those building blocks, the respective CBOs, because in the original concept of the CBO, it was not intended, the CDC, for them to be implementing projects but to be coordinators of projects that falls under their umbrella. Miss Mullins, Miss Spence?
Do you mean Miss Spence?
Spence, yes.
Yes, I'm agreeing with Mr. Allen. The CDC is definitely the umbrella group, which means that the Granville Foundation should be one of the CBOs that are under the CDC. So the Granville Foundation should have representative at the CDC level to bring back information and also to assist with building a better community for Granville. I know the ideal CDCs in communities are very hard in the sense that a lot of persons volunteer work. That's number one. And it's some persons get burned out because, for example, a president is there for 5 to 7 to 10 years because nobody wants to take up that position. So with one person doing all being a president and so on, it flusters the group, and then CDC is a volunteer work, which means say it poses a difficult when for persons who do work, and then when we approach the community for them to be a part of the CDC, they tend not to want to because they might not like the person that is on it, or they think some persons there are there for wrong reason. However, if you don't want to represent your community, it is other persons who don't have the community at interest going to be there forever, and so on. I know the CDC in Granville is not an ideal CDC. So what I want to do is meet with all the relevant CBOs in the space and see if I can get persons to be on the CDC so we can move Granville forward.
Ms. Spence.
Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
We are faced with
Mr. Allen, I am going to say something for the last.
Okay, go ahead. I will leave to your counselor.
Yes, Ms. Spence. Good night. Good night, Chairman. Mr. Collins. You know, I listened to your presentation and I fell asleep. It was you're not a good person, salesperson. I just have to say that. Granville is a division with 7 unplanned areas. So it's not one cut can fit everybody. I think the SDC is supposed to tailor cuts for Granville division because every area you go into, you have a different set of persons, different mindsets. And it's time for us, the CDC, to tailor cut to fit each division. So for instance, in Pit 4, a matter of fact, there's no CDC in Granville Pit 4 or retirement. They're only interested to form a CDC when they know that money is going to spend at the project we just trying to finish, the JCF project. Apart from that, they're not interested. It's one family. And I said in Pit 4 where some people retired, the chairman lived way out of a different area. It cannot be that we are talking about building a committee with one set fit everybody. So I am expecting going forward. Yeah?
Welcome, Mr. Horton.
Yes. I'm expecting, ma'am, that you have meetings in different cluster of the division and find the right. So for instance, you have to cut and fit for, say for instance, in Granville. Nobody's in Granville not going to sit down on CDC. Nothing. What you need to do is to get a community football team together and said, okay, based on your involvement in Granville, we're going to form this team into a CDC and make them have something working for, and you get a cluster of young people. It pure retired people who all you can see. They take up the spot here. And young people don't listen to them because the majority of people who are trying to target are young persons. They're not going to go to a meeting room and sit down and listen for a whole 2 hours. No, you have to find a creative way of engaging the young people to be a part of the development of Granville. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I respond? As one of those aging persons, Councillor Chu. Can I respond?
You can respond, but I'm speaking to you directly.
Somebody else is here?
Go ahead, sir.
I agree with you, Councillor, in terms of the structure of the CDC. And what you need to do now is to build new organization, new structures within the community. But it cannot be built upon sport and leisure activities. We have to look at other areas that are critical, that has not been developed. And different people have different orientation. So if you don't like me, you don't have to come in my organization or my space. You should be able to build your own cluster out there with your own interests and your own ideas. What I'd like to see, for example, Councillor, we have to look at serious economic development. We have to build entrepreneurs in Granville. We have to look at the whole issue of food security. We have to encourage our people to be productive. Those are the things that we need now to look at, Mr. Chu. And it may be challenging and it may be easy for us to go out there and dance, but we're going to dance our way back into slavery if we do not go out there and start to become productive members of the Jamaican society. This is why so many of our young people are scammers, because we want more opportunity for them to be prosperous.
All right, so we have another question from Vanessa, which is in the chat. What are the steps by the CDC to address the matters of teenage pregnancies, health, education, since we are trying bouncing back from the pandemic? And she also agrees with you, Councillor Troop, regarding the elders for wisdom, but youth for active participation and fresh ideas. Go ahead, please, with regard to the question from Vanessa. Ms. Spence.
Miss Alicia is the president for the CDC. She's in a meeting now. So she did not get an opportunity to join the meeting. However, I just started the space in April, so I still haven't discussed an action plan for the CDC as yet. So as soon as I have that information from Ms. Scott, I will definitely send it to you.
Ms. Spence.
Yes,
Spence.
Mr. Ali?
I would like us to look at strengthening the capacity of our people within the community as first responders. It is not something that the SDC should do for us. It's things that we should do for ourselves. I think we should look at, for example, Mrs. Yvette Gardner.
It's 21 hours.
Have been trying to build a parenting circle. We need to support her effort and to strengthen her and broaden the membership there. And I was hoping at this meeting, we'll be getting volunteers to work in the various areas and to build CBOs with different orientation, different leadership. I just would like to make the point that the principal problem that we face in Granville right now is violence. And it impacts on everything else. And the government itself and the Minister of National Security made a point that all of the social intervention programs in St. James have failed. And what is challenging us now is that we should look at a community-driven process. We in the community must now come up with solutions to deal with the reduction of violence within our community. For our part at the Granville Peace, Justice and Resource Development Foundation, we are looking at targeting youth at risk, those who are at the margins, ex-offenders. As a matter of fact, we are seeking partnership with the probation service for those ex-offenders. As a matter of fact, we had one young man at our office who was given 284 days community service. We would like to build our capacity that we can take those ex-offenders and integrate them into the formal processes. These are the things that we need to do. Those young people who have to be reporting to the police, we would like them to have access to counseling and mentorship. We have to now deal with those young people who are at risk, serious risk, and those who are ex-offenders, so that we can find ways of integrating them and break the cycle that has caused us to be murdering one another.
Some very valid points there, Sir Allen. Miss Spence, can you respond to us in some positive light in regards to those points raised by Mr. Allen? I also, in the meantime, whilst you think about that, I recognize Elder Hines. Do you have a comment or question? Elder Hines? All right. So go ahead, Ms. Spence, and respond to Mr. Allen.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
What is it within your conversation? Was there a question?
Well, really, I made a statement there. You don't have to
Exactly.
burden yourself with responding. But I would like you to take that into consideration to build our capacity so that we can address our development needs within the community.
Okay, yes. We'll be able to do that. As long as we know what the needs are, we can put a training together to alleviate that.
Go ahead, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
I am not local, so you will pardon me if I am not in sync with much of what is going on. My understanding of what the CDC is supposed to do. The CDC is supposed to be an amalgamation of the community members who look at the priorities of the community, set those priorities, and seek to address them. Is there an inventory of the resources within the community? And if there is, how do you plan to integrate them into the framework of the CDC?
I believe that question is for you, Ms. Spence.
There should be some inventory with the CDC, that the group that is there now. There should be some documents, but as we know, Ms. Spence has just gone into the space. This is what, the first major meeting. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if anybody from the CDC is on tonight now to really defend themselves. We at the SDC, we facilitate the workings of the CDC. We don't dictate. So I think we should probably have another meeting, Mr.
Allen.
Mr. Allen, having the CDC there so they can defend themselves where all these questions are being fed.
And as I add to what Ms. Malcolm is saying, Mr. McKenzie, at the CDC, at the SDC, we do a stakeholder analysis for the community, and it identifies the 3 different stakeholders who works in the community, the key stakeholders, which are the CBOs within the space. The primary stakeholders are stakeholders that are external, such as the JPS, the Water Commission, what is it that they have been doing, and the secondary stakeholders that speaks about the SDC, the Member of Parliament, the councillors. So I am not aware if Granville CDC have that, but I definitely will be doing training to develop that, because that is what we use and what the communities should use in identify the stakeholders that are in the space and the strengths and weaknesses that they have, and how we can use this to integrate all the activities and all the intervention that is needed for the community. If that answers the question correctly.
Mr. Mackenzie, one of our critical resources is our diaspora. Persons like your esteemed self, property owner in Granville. And truth be told, we have abandoned our properties and it has been taken over by characters that have undermined the good name of Granville. And if we could mobilize all those property owners, all of you who are in diaspora, similar to how the Jews develop Israel, and return and develop Granville. There's a song, you know, Jane and Louisa will soon come home. We are waiting on diaspora to come and invest in Granville, to develop those big yards and convert them into livable communities. So you are our major asset out there.
Mr. Allen,
you there as in our inventory.
Mr. Allen, thank you for identifying me as one with abandoned property. But as you very well know, I didn't abandon my property. I tried to give it to you for you to use. Okay. Let me just say this. I have a strong and deep interest in Granville. I would like to work with whatever forces there are on the ground to help to turn the community around. I am in touch with a number of ex-Granvillian or expats, as you call them. And I heard that there's not even one functioning youth club in Granville. I happen to be in touch with the whole Central United group, and I will raise the issue with them as to what can be done to coordinate and help to bring some activities back.
Good. Mr. Rodney is doing a good job in mobilizing young people around the Connolly competition. And he could get some support. He needs that sort of support right now.
I will definitely reach out to Fisher and groups, and we'll talk. We had discussions, and they somehow, with COVID came in, they seem to have fallen apart. But I will reach out to them again, and we'll see where we can go.
Good. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Mark?
I was just about to unmute to say that I can now fully hand over back to you, unless you have other persons who will be making some form of presentation this evening.
I was hoping that at this meeting, we would be looking at setting up committees, CBOs. So we are looking volunteers. There's not a lot of us online here, but enough of us to make a move. So going forward, persons who are interested in any of these areas could let it be known, because some of us, I'm particularly taken up with the Granville Peace, Justice and Resource Development Foundation. It has a limited mandate. This is the 60th anniversary of independence. Festival is coming up and all of that. We need to participate in those areas also. We need to use it as a way of bringing back Granville. I was so emboldened that when I look at YouTube and I saw gun jerk pork out there and barley chicken, and all the people were so amored by it. The strangers who came in and speak highly of the spirit of Granville. And this is why I supported the night out. but we have to be very conscious of the violence that engulfs us. But we should not be imprisoned by those few who have been giving Granville bad name. We have to take back the streets and the communities. And the only way we can do that is for us to bond together as one people. And we should not look to others to do for us what we ought to be doing for ourselves. Too often we look at these institutions and look at SDC to come in and do things for us. We have, for example, the Corner League that have been running in Granville from 1974, mobilizing more than 14 football teams every year without SDC, without external support. So we have the capacity within our community, and we need to find a way to unleash those capacities so that we can build a new Granville. So ladies and gentlemen, yes, Miss Alicia, we'll have another meeting online. I will work with the CDC because it is the institution established by the state to which we will all work. But we need to build our own organization based upon our own interest and our own orientation. And I hope that we can work with the SDC to achieve that robust CDC that will inure to the good of Granville. Thank you very much. And should we have a parting prayer, Pastor?
No, there's
However,
a hand.
I see there's a
Okay.
hand raised from Tai Tai Tours. You can go ahead, Tai Tai.
Yes, Mr. Gordon. Go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
Let's look at the geographical area of Granville. We have retirement. We have up to the dump area, where we have a shooting, 2 friends shoot each other last week. We have come down to the friendship side. Over on that piece of land, Michael Chuk can help me there now. There's a lot of informal settlements happening there, because when we talk about Granville, Granville is not only where Granville School is or where you're living, Dave.
What's that? Okay. What's going on here?
Well, he seems to be having some connectivity issues.
Yeah, it's from his end.
Give him a moment.
Yes. What's going on with Mr. Gordon? He has always been an articulate spokesperson. I've heard from Mrs. Malawi Ford. She should have addressed her meeting, but she has her support.
She indicated that she's having some issues
Problem
connecting.
Yes, connectivity just long before.
All right, it seems as if Mr. Gordon has connected to come back again.
Anyone else there that would like to?
Mic check.
Yeah, go ahead now, Mr. Gordon.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm not sure where you guys are at in the meeting, because I just joined the meeting, and I'm not sure. I hear you talking about CDC and stuff. So I was just trying to drag just to let some people that are in the group understand the geographical area of Granville and what is happening. Now, even though we're trying to put a band-aid on what is happening in Granville itself, like by Crossroad or up in Granville, there are other areas in Granville that are festering. So even up by gutters, if we understand that by gutters, they're cutting down their land and saying nobody else can come. They are the only ones that are going to be living there. Over by There's a lot of informal settlement going on. Now, if things are not structured to HHA or to other agencies, then we're going to have people living in these areas that we can't talk to. We need to organize these people, whether we're going to give them the land and give them lot numbers or something, so that we can actually pinpoint who is, we can call somebody from that area, what is happening there, and then try to remedy the situation. But right now, it's just chaos right now in the informal parts of Granville. Not up by Crossroads and stuff. I'm talking about the other areas now where we have empty land and wasteland that people are just put in a house. All right. So we have to get all CDCs involved. So even the CDC down by retirement, the CDC over by friendship, all of this area is Granville.
Hello, am I being heard? Hello. Yes, I'm in a total support of what Mr. Gordon is saying in respect to the level of informality that has been taking place, particularly on this Tucker main road going all the way up to Friendship and the adjacent properties. All of those areas need to be brought under some development controls. The council need to address those issues of squatting that is taking place. And it is not that I'm fighting against squatter, because I have a reputation. I was able to cause 510 lots to be built and convert what was squatter settlement into a formal community known as retirement phase 1. I'm prepared to continue to do that, but what obtains now cannot be allowed to continue. It must be brought under some development controls. And this is why I spoke to Mark Jarrett and asked that he support our effort in ensuring that we come up with a development plan similar to what obtains at Montego Bay South. That plan that he has there should continue from Belfield, continue to St. John's. He should use his skill and his expertise so that we can have a seamless transition from Bogue Village to St. John's. This is the fastest growth area. And one of the things that is undermining our development is the presence of the retirement dump that must be removed. Hello? Am I frozen also? Okay.
Right, the mics are free.
We are hearing you, Mr. Allen. You can go ahead. We're on mute.
I do not know.
You clearly.
I do not know where I start or stop, because I'm having some difficulty with the sound. Suffice it to say that I support what Mr. Tyrone Gardner is saying. We need to address the issue of squatting. We have to put an end to the level of informality that is taking place. We have to put in the requisite infrastructure, particularly in phase 2 of retirement that surrounds gutters in those areas. It's embarrassing. And it is outside of our remit. And as I was saying, that I'd asked Mark Carter to use his clout to see if he could put his experience as a past president of the Greater Montego Bay Redevelopment Company and one who designed Montego Bay South, to see how we could look at addressing the issue of infrastructure in the, as Mr. Tyrone was saying, that Granville is not only Granville proper, but Granville and the Greater Granville. Take the case of Granville Drive. That road needs to be widened. If there is a gunshot fire somewhere out there, and people could not escape coming from the Seventh-day Adventist Church to the square because of the situation that obtains there. We need to widen that road. And it is said that roads, the development of roads leads to development. If we had widened Granville Drive from the square going up, we'd have greater level of development at Granville Top. So we need somebody like Jarrett, as I was saying, and other major forces to assist us in looking at the infrastructure so that there will be a seamless transition from Montego Bay South to Granville, Pitford, Retirement, and St. John's. Hello?
Agreed, Mr. Allen. Agreed.
Agreed.
I can't hear anything going on here.
Yes, sir, Alan. We're hearing you, and a number of persons responded that they agreed with your comment.
And this is why we need the member of parliament, to be involved in these conversations. I'm sure she'll be around the next time. She has always been with us whenever we call upon her. So I'd like her to be a part of that conversation. So we need not only dealing with the cultural committee, the entrepreneurship that we need to develop. We need to look at Granville Redevelopment Company. We need to invest in some of these big yards so that we can provide low-cost housing solution at the emerging Montego Bay for the labor market. So we have to repurpose Granville, and it can't be done in a little patty shop way. We need serious investment. And we have to also look to those in diaspora. But most of them own land who are in Canada and United States and England. We have to bring them also into this development process and point to them the opportunities that are here for them to convert their big yard into prosperous communities. Mr. Mark? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'm here.
I'm not hearing anybody,
Yeah,
so
but I think
myself.
No, I think by and large, persons are in full agreement with what you're saying. You mentioned that you're hoping coming out of this meeting to have the formulation of some committees and things like that. Yeah. I wonder if you would consider, though, using this as a kind of sensitization to that end, coming out of yet another meeting where we'd have had a wider cross-section of persons and a greater representation. Yes. Now that we have had this leg of the meeting going on.
So could we set the meeting? Independence is just around the corner. And we need to join the bandwagon of the 68th anniversary celebration. So we can wait until another 2 months. Can we say within another 2 weeks we have another such meeting? If all of us here invite 4 other persons to join in, may I suggest that within 2 weeks we have another meeting of this nature?
I think it's well within your power to set that, sir. Do you have a number of persons who have joined and are standing with you and in support of the thrust? And I believe that if we are so encouraged, then persons will go ahead and encourage others to join another meeting. And if you go ahead and you set a meeting, schedule a meeting, then I'm pretty certain that you'll get some support there. I'll make the link available. I'll make this platform available that you can use it, so you don't have to worry about the timing issue. But if you could establish a kind of working agenda that would guide the meeting and maybe disseminate it accordingly so that persons can be prepared to come on board, prepared to deal with the matters that you have established in that agenda. Another presentation akin to the one that we had earlier would be very much in order as well, to sort of bolster the support and give an idea as to what is expected of us as a committee, as a working body that is looking towards the development. And I do strongly support the idea of the diaspora being a support arm to the development of this body, because the diaspora in any given body is always a strong support, very, very strong support to the development of any initiative. And so if we could have a Granville Development Committee diaspora chapter, if you want to call it that, headed by Mr. Mackenzie or somebody who we can designate, and they get together each and every month or every other month and look at things that they can do in support of Granville, whether it is they want to support a particular school or a particular initiative, whatever it might be. You know, I'm certain the diaspora can bring some good measure to the development of Granville. We have at least one person in the diaspora in the form of Mr. Mackenzie, and I'm sure he can bring some more support with him if he is properly motivated in that regard.
Mr. Mark.
Go ahead.
Your personality and your capacity would have attracted those persons from, as a leader yourself, of such a body, so that people like me can now retire in peace, knowing that this community is in good hands. I want to thank you very much for rising to the occasion, sir. You have done an excellent job. And I'm sure you have motivated others to volunteer their efforts. Thank you very much again, sir, for your effort and for the smooth way in which this thing was transited. You have saved it, because I had some serious problems with the IT, but you have been able to rise to the occasion in more ways than one. Again, thank you very much for your kind support.
You're welcome, Sir Alan, and I want to suggest that every member on this platform right now would have done the very same thing, because we're all here. Maybe someone lives in Granville, maybe they don't, maybe they live nearby, maybe they live far away, whatever it might be. But we all have Granville, the wider Jamaica at heart. And so whatever it is that we all can put into the pot, into that melting pot, to make Granville a better community, invariably, we are making Jamaica a better country, that others don't have to look and be worried about the levels of crime and violence, because when an egregious act of crime and violence is committed in any section, in any quarter of the country, it impacts the entire country. And so we all would rise to the occasion to, as much as our capacities and various levels of involvement would allow us to do that. There are 14 of us on the platform now. At one point, there were 21 persons, and maybe other involvements would have caused the others to leave. I'm sure that because of other involvements, others may not have been able to join. But whatever it is, I'm sure whatever we are doing here is impacting others. And we have to say thanks to you as well for the initiative that you have shown and the leadership that you have shown. I love when people say that they are retiring, because what that means is that they are retiring themselves for repurposing of themselves. So you're not retired to go back and sit down. You're retired to help those younger minds and persons to come into the space and encourage them also. So yes, I support what was said earlier about those of the more mature who are going to offer the wisdom, and those younger who are going to offer the strength which is necessary for the development of any community and the movement and advancement of any initiative.
Finally, if I may just say a few parting words. I'm very encouraged. No, I am not prepared to assume leadership responsibility for the diaspora group, but I am in touch with people, and I will gather with them and share with them the encounter and invite them and encourage them to participate. The problem that the primary concern of the people with whom I am in touch is the issue of security. We are not going to turn Granville around if we cannot address the crime and violence issue. If we can't do that, if we can do that, and I hope we can, then folks will chime in. The people I'm in touch with love Granville. They love their experiences of Granville, and they have not given up on Granville. So we have not given up. But we have to find local resources that with whom we can work to help reshape Granville.
We are trying to build an enabling environment, because I know difficult it is from you over there to hear about us killing one another over here, for you to say you want to invest. We need to create that enabling environment that would cause you want to invest in Granville. We're working on it. I'm confident that we shall overcome.
Good enough, good enough. Peace out, my friends. Thanks again, Dave. We'll talk.
We'll talk. Good. Have a good day.
All right.
Should we sing the national anthem? Or should we just say good night? And you will hear from us within another 2 weeks. Before another 2 weeks, you'll hear from us. And please forward your recommendations and suggestions so that it can be incorporated. Okay?
Will do.
Mr. Allen,
Yes, sir.
just a quick suggestion. People from all the areas around Granville, when you're rescheduling a meeting, if you can, get a representation from each area so we can actually get a feedback what's going on in each area.
Okay. We know the problem out there, but we don't want to touch the problem out there, You understand? We know the problems out there, and we cannot whisper them. Let us not telescope it abroad.
Okay.
Build, those of us build the capacity so that we can fight the common foe. Let us not telescope negative. Okay? But I hear you.
Okay, sir.
Good. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
All right. Moving down.